Welcome to the Black Sheep Believers podcast. Hi, I'm Jess.
And I'm Alicia.
Have you ever felt like you didn't belong?
A misfit, outcast.
Too loud, or even like a black sheep? Us too.
Yep. Black Sheep Believers is a podcast of honest conversations for those seeking, questioning, and deepening their relationship with Jesus.
So let's have the hard but real conversations around feeling misunderstood and misplaced, but feeling fully accepted by the God that created us. Welcome home, Black Sheep.
ESB fam, welcome back. Woohoo! We're here with another episode. I'm Alicia.
I'm Jess.
We're so glad you're here. I'm also super excited about this episode. Well, one, because anytime we get to do involvement with you guys and leading our episodes and conversations, it's just making me excited because I literally feel like we are just sitting down with our friends having a chat. But we're specifically chatting this week to our younger friends.
Yeah, our Gen Z girlies. We are decisively millennial. Would you say?
Elder.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Elder millennial.
And so we have a vantage point with a couple of birthdays. And I don't know that necessarily determines us to be wise. I don't want really wise women are younger than me. You know, I feel even when they're older. So I would say we're just wanting to speak to what's more commonly areas of interest to women that are a few years, lower on the mountain as and so we're really excited. We had some really sweet conversations with women that we really love that are in their 20s. That would just, we define in cultural terms as Gen Z. Mm-hmm. So after high school, not quite in their 30s yet.
Yeah. And I think too, if you're listening and you're more along the lines of elder millennial, this I think will be a great reminder. Because one thing I do know about the younger generation, specifically the younger generation of women, they're built different in the best way. Yeah. Like I meet young women who are confident in themselves.
Yeah.
They are really confident in their walk with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I feel like just this generation, there's things about them that's really, really refreshing. So we're going to give advice and we're also going to heed inspiration.
Oh my God, I love it you just said that. Because it's absolutely how I feel. It's like 100% about this younger generation. For whatever reason, I feel like everyone creative. They are more willing to be authentically themselves. Mm-hmm. And they also, I think, are more confident. I think every female has insecurities that could be started at the beginning of creation. But I would say for the most part, like with these women, I would say like I'm just so inspired by their creativity and their innovation and their authenticity, and also just like their virtues. Like they care very deeply about like their values, and they really are unwilling to compromise those values. And anyway, I'm just like, while we're giving advice, I love how you said that. While we're giving advice, we're also still recognizing that we've got so much to learn from you. No doubt.
Okay, hold on, girlhood.
Girlhood, which is y'all.
What some of the questions that we got asked us?
We got some really good ones, and I am so sorry for those of you that have a very specific question in your mind that you didn't hear from us today. If you do, please email us at contact@blacksheepbelievers.com. That just allows for us to maybe have repetitive Gen Z videos. What's really funny right now, we just have to talk about what's happening beyond the fourth wall. That's like the technical term of this. So, Alicia, if you haven't known this on her social media, she is a service dog training. She has a service dog in training. That service dog did big old doo-doo, and doo-doo, I mean trouble, this week. So he gets to film with us today. Like he's on the other side of the camera, and he just did something that got Mama Alicia. Sorry. So she just gave a dare face.
And that is for the younger girls. Oh, you will acquire a talent.
Yeah.
Once you have children, you don't even have to speak. Your eyes just bulge out of your head, and everyone scurries to what they need to be doing. So sorry, that's exactly
That she just turned into mom. She just turned into mom just now.
yeah.
So that's 100% true.
That's on a side quest there.
Yeah, that's so awesome. But I also think hopefully they did that. Okay, so like I said, we've got all these really great questions, and in these questions, there are a few of them that like probably need to be their own episode. One of which we're going to talk about today, but there are some that I just want to give honorable mentions to that we're not going to cover. So one of the questions I got was on hypocrisy. How do you deal with hypocrisy within, just generally? How do you deal with hypocrisy yourself? How do you deal with hypocrisy coming in with others, especially within Christian culture? We talked a lot about that. Church hurt. We covered flavors of that in church hurt episode, but I think we could probably talk about it. Inaccurate Christian sayings, like phrases and sayings that are really common, that don't bring any true value to our faith in God or our formation, like our spiritual formation, but it's like what Christians say all the time. Love that. I just need to do a little bit more research. I mean,
I'd love to do a full episode
just on Christian culture in general. Yeah. And then praying through doubt and shame. Also, another episode we probably need completely. We will talk about sexual sin at some point. It's its own episode. It's its own episode because it's so rampant. It has variations of all different kinds. You might be dealing with sexual sin and looking at things that are unhealthy for your body line. You might be in a relationship with somebody who's dealing with it. You might have been impacted by it negatively indirectly, right? Because of the culture and because of how over-sexualized it is. So we're going to cover that independently. And then processing abuse, another like heavy. It's like a steak dinner of podcast episodes. And it's so important for us to get the healing process with abuse, right? And so people ask it again. And then another one is pruning. And that phrase is obviously like a phrase that most people use in the garden where they, they cut, trim down branches and stuff, but it's a spiritual term as well. And it simply just means like shedding the flesh, former self.
It's dying to yourself.
It's just dying to yourself. And anyway, well, those are all honorable mentions. Let's talk about friendships. There is a whole period of time in our life that friendships serve a very specific purpose between the ages of birth and out of high school, college. For a lot of people, depending on what your post-high school experience is, some of you kind of extend high school into college and your friendships look very specific and very similar. In fact, more embedded because a lot of you are living with your roommates and you guys are all having a shared college experience. But once you get to adulting, at whatever age that is, what friendships look like at that point radically changes. Do you remember what it was like to go from like high school friendships or young people friendships to adult friendships? Do you remember that for yourself?
Yeah, and I think I'm the type of person that I'm more of quality over quantity.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable in a smaller friend group. And so, I had friend groups that lasted literally generations. And then I also made new friends, but my group is always small, and it's not even a purpose thing. It's a genuine thing. Like I just genuinely, I love people and I love women, but I really only kind of connect with just a small group, and I keep my circle small. I think what's also really interesting is that there's such an expectation that happens in friend groups when you go to adulting, but everybody is adulting at different speeds, different times. Whoa, that makes it hard, right? It's also very evident, I feel like, with women that when you have a friend group and maybe one part of that friend group is entering marriage or the other one is having children, or the other one is still in the single life. What happens, I think, within those friend groups is that if you're not careful, it's a spotlight in the lack of. And so that is something that I think friendships really have to pay attention to, because you are so happy for your friends, but it's also, just because we're human, it's a reminder of where you're at and where they're at. So how do you think, how did you navigate that? Because I'm sure that probably happened for you.
Oh man. Well, love what you just said. The lack. What you have versus what they have, and that way. It's also like your interests change the moment that you enter another season, right? It just invites you to see life in a completely different place. So when you start dating somebody and things are going great, you're going to jump in and we're going to talk about that. And then for the friends that are single, it's like, how do we not have a little bit of longing for that too, for those that want to have that kind of experience as well? So I can just see that being such just a mindful, like, let's be mindful that when we're in friendships, that we recognize to be sure, shine the light on whatever season our friends are in. Okay, so back to your question about my experience. I had a very traditional college experience where I lived on campus, or I went to a 4-year university, and my girls, we met 20 years ago. That's how far out of college I am. I graduated in 2008, and I met them in 2004. So 21 years ago, I met the girls that I test with at least every week, right? So like, I have the pleasure of having girlfriends that we've navigated lots of seasons together. And in that group, we've got those that are, at various degrees of like what they've chosen for their life. Some of us have children, some of us don't. We've got a friend that lives internationally, like she doesn't live in the country anymore. So it's really cool to see what we still kind of long to do together, and we live so many memories together. That's really precious to us. But we've also given each other permission to be at different seasons and to choose different things for their life. And I think the thing about friends is that we need to have an equal amount of interest in being seen and in seeing. We need to have an equal interest in being seen, bringing our vulnerability, our honesty, our needs, tempering our needs with what God can offer us. Because sometimes we put a lot of pressure on our friends to give to us what God can give to us, but only God can give to us. So let's like reorient what the expectation is on a friend. But we also need to be as committed in our friendships to care about what that person's needs are, and to do our very best to give a reciprocal amount of benefit, a mutual benefit between us and our friends. So here's like, for me in friendships, as soon as that college season left, I had all my friends, they like they went everywhere. Like they went to all different corners of our country and then around the world. Like they weren't near me. And so I had to redefine what age the friendships I was looking for. So like I ended up becoming great friends with women who were married, who had kids in middle school. Like women that were like 15 and 20 years older really ministered to me. And I just embraced what was available to me in the area that I was in. And I just prayed for the things that I didn't have. And I just asked God to give me those friendships. And then I allowed for it to take the time that it needed. So some of us, we want to rush into finding friends that are just like us. And I think if we could just ask God to help us have gratitude for what we currently have, and for God to also fill in us what we don't have, and then ask God to help us find joy in whatever capacity of friendships we have, life can be full. Absolutely. It's a matter of perspective. And eventually I did find friends that were in similar seasons of life that cared about the same things that I cared about. So it just took time.
And such a life hack is having friends of all ages. I have really good friends that are in their 20s, and one of my best friends is 74.
Right.
And it's such a life hack, because there will be seasons where your friends who are the same age as you, even though they're the same age as you, they're in a totally different season.
Yeah.
I remember for myself, we had a very different young life. You and I just.
Oh, dang, I was a pastor at 22.
I was literally partying like a rock star. Oh my gosh. And so we're all my friends, and we were wild, and we did it all. And what was really crazy is one of my friends, she ended up having, she was the first one to have kids. And I remember when she was pregnant, I just didn't get it. And then when she had her baby, I just didn't get it. I was like, oh, it's like, you got a dog. Yeah, totally. Like, that's how clueless I was. And then, years later, when I became a mother, I actually had to go back and apologize to her.
Wow.
Because I was like, I did not show up for you in that season, not because I didn't want to, but because I had no perspective and had no idea. I wasn't in the same place. Thankfully, we were able to, maintain a friendship through that. But that's also okay too, because sometimes your friends are experiencing things and you just aren't.
Right.
And you can try to be there.
Right.
But what I will say about this, when just in the last couple of years, I've had a drastic change in friendships. And what was really interesting is the closer I get to God, unfortunately, the more I've had friendships, really, really good friendships that have lasted for literally a decade, disappear. And it's really hard in that season when you feel isolated that you're like, oh my God, like, or you're like, it's gotta be me. Like, I just feel like my friendships are evaporating out of thin air. And really what it is that sometimes you have friendships that you have for years that they're built on things that aren't meant for you. And they're built on things that are not good for you. And it's totally normal to mourn the loss of those friendships. But it's also really important to see that sometimes God is clearing out what is not meant for you, and it might not even just be for you. It might be for that other person. Maybe your friendship is built on gossiping, or maybe your friendship is built on your bonding because you don't have what somebody else has, and so you're bonding over negativity. There's so many times that good friendships can be built on bad foundations.
Girl, that is so good.
I don't know it because I literally just experienced
That's
as a 37-year-old woman, I experienced this. And so as an older woman, I had to mourn losing friendships. I had to really learn to forgive. Even in a misunderstanding, I had to learn to just forgive and just accept that was a misunderstanding. And for whatever reason, like God is encouraging us to split ways because he has something else for us.
Yeah, so good.
So, that's kind of my take on friendships, is that the friendships that are sent from God will last a lifetime. They're not going to be perfect. There's going to be seasons where you just don't get each other, but they will last. Friendships that are built outside of God, don't be surprised that when you get closer to him, they might disappear.
Yeah, or just change. Also,
Yes.
I will also say, one of the things that I had to, there were really painful seasons where I had to intentionally shed in a relationship, even with women who claim to have my faith, women who also were Christians, but our value systems weren't weighed the same way. So I had to shed relationships with people because I'm built to be more of an optimist, hopeful. Let's see a good, let's just assume good is coming, good will happen. I had to really evaluate friends that were maybe more pessimistic and cynical. Girls that, we had a shared interest and we had a really great time together, but I noticed that they were gossiping and they were, doing things that I knew didn't represent how I wanted to be. And so I just had to distance myself from that person. And at great cost. I mean, there were times where it actually impacted, this was like a work friendships, where that person was so hurt and offended by, the fact that I was pulling away from her, that she invited other people that led me into her frustration with me. And so there were times where I had to really evaluate, is this friendship going to point me closer to the Lord? And I want to be able to point them closer to the Lord? Or do they not have the teaching in the spirit that I crave out of friends who can hear the truth and actually introduce about it? And so there are other friends that, they invited jealousy and, favoritism into a group of friends, or they just brought chaos in their life. They just constantly had something chaotic that was going on in their life. They were inviting it, they were creating it. And anytime you were with them, they didn't bring a level of peace to me. And because of that, I had to just decisively say, I need to invest my time into other people. And I wasn't direct with them because I didn't feel like it would bring value. Like they're not going to hear me. But I had to make really decisive choices in who I invested in. And I think that's the other thing, because you have so many other responsibilities. You have to be really intentional with the relationships, like I said, bringing you benefit, that what you said, that are actually going to are built on a solid foundation of trust and respect and love. And also, for those that are listening to follow Jesus, that you will care. You too.
Time is so precious.
Yeah. Let's just make it count. Let's make the relationships count.
So good, Jess.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really good one. And by the way, we're gonna really try hard to have a short episode for
What do we do next? Let's do next subject.
Really quick. How do you read your Bible? It's a really hard book, for the record. It's a super hard book to read. And it's because it was written, within a span of 1,000 years plus. And it was not written directly to you.
It was written for you.
Right.
But not directly
to you. And so it's a super complicated book. How do you read your Bible?
So I'm relatively new to reading the Bible. I've only been reading the Bible for about 2 years. And for me, I am a person, even down to just reading in general, I like to have a physical book in front of me. I don't vibe as much with technology in terms of breaking that down. But I like to use technology as an accessory to how I read the Bible. So for me, when I first came to Jesus, I actually used to kind of hide reading the Bible. Because it was a really foreign thing for people to see me reading the Bible. And I was so scared. I'd seen so many people be like, I read my Bible. This is me reading my Bible. That I didn't want to reading my Bible to be a reduction. And so I just started spending time with Jesus. And he's like, what are you doing? Open it. Open it and I'll show you. Ask me to have our boots and I'll show you. So for me, what works really well is I started getting something that serves as a devotional, whether it's an actual devotional or it's just my devotional to journaling of whatever I read, etc. So I use that in tandem with at least every single day. I want to read 1 to 2 passages. Sometimes I'll read the whole book. I don't put pressure on myself. It's not this checklist thing. I just know that when my day includes getting in the Word, it's a better day. I feel better. I respond better. I'm more connected to God that way. So for me, sometimes I do this in the morning. Sometimes I do it at night. The only rule I have is that I want it every day.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, kind of restrained within that.
It's fluid.
Yeah, it's fluid freedom. And then something that was really helpful for me, because I would get stuck on a lot of words. I was very emotionally charged to a lot of words that I didn't really understand. So for example, when I first started reading the Bible, I opened up. Well, the first book I ever read was Revelation, which I've learned most people don't do that.
It's pretty backwards for you to do that.
But in me, I was like, well, this is the end. I want to know what happens. And I've always had this really just pull to Revelation. I love it. I did a year study over at Bible study. It was amazing. But anyways, so I started Revelation, and then I was like every new baby Christian, I was like, well, I'm going to start to read that. I got a second right to the New Testament, and I kept I kept seeing the fear of God.
Are you talking about the New or the Old Testament?
Old Testament.
Old Testament. Okay.
And that really started because just where I was at the time, I was so sensitive that I was like, I don't like that. Like, why are we following a God that we fear? Well, I looked up the Hebrew translation, and fear in Hebrew translates into awe, to be in awe of God. And it was so crazy, just knowing that one translation, it changed how I was reading scripture. And so that's an encouragement that I have if you are new to reading the Bible. Something that just, even to this day, if I get caught in a word, or if I get caught on a certain thing, I look up the original translation, and almost always it opens my heart in a different way. So for me, that helps me read the Bible. And I keep it simple. It's just a part of my day.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, you just open it at some point, and it's access to understanding who God is. Yeah, I love that. How I do it? Okay, so I've had a really complicated relationship with the Bible. I used to love it and had 3 quiet times a day in high school, and then in college I was really disillusioned because I had a ministry job with Polo, and so I was like, forget this Bible thing, I'm just going to do my own thing. And then I started doing ministry, and ministry became more of the goal, was to do ministry, less about like the spiritual forming, the heart and mind of the Holy Spirit to align with the Lord. And that was on me. That's on me. I take full credit to that. And so the Bible was more like, it is beneficial for me as a pastor to get into this thing every day. So I did it, but it had nothing to do with the condition of my heart, had nothing to do with wanting to understand that better, had nothing to do with deepening my intimacy with Jesus. No, it was very, I just was doing it as just in the same way that I brush my teeth. And then when I left ministry and I didn't have that pressure, then there was a time where I just didn't open it. And I didn't open it. I talked to God a lot. And for a very long time, I just prayed that He gave me the desire to open it. That's all I did. I talked to God all the time. And I would just say, Lord, give me a desire to open this door. And then eventually I found a resource that allowed for me to understand the Bible in a way that I hadn't yet. So I freshened up my perspective on the Bible. And then I went super into it again. And it was my first love. Like, I wanted to teach the Bible growing up. So, I mean, it was really fun to fall back in the Bible after leaving ministry. But this is what the purpose of the Bible and reading it every day for me is. I want to grow spiritually to love the Lord my God, for my heart, so my ministry, and love my neighbor as myself. And everything that I try to do in interacting with the Bible is to understand that God's God. That's my goal. I'm not trying to read it so I get, this like, it's not a textbook to me, although I read it sometimes like a textbook. It's not a devotional to me, or it's not a guide map to me, because there are lots of things in it that are not written for me to see it as a guide map. I just don't understand it for what it is. And so I have found resources that have allowed for me, when I interact with the Bible, I feel more connected to my dad. And that's really my goal. Okay, so there are a few things that I want to incorporate when I spend time on the Bible. The first is meditation. I want to be able to meditate on the actual text itself. I want to understand the Bible the way that Jesus understood the Old Testament, and how those that wrote the New Testament would have seen the Old Testament. And because I want to understand the Bible based on who was writing it and their vantage point from it. Context is literally everything. And when we fall out of context with it, it's when false teaching happens, when people fall really prey into achievement-based theology, into you just buckle, you just pull those bootstraps, you can figure it out. You have the will and the power to do crap. It's all crap. It's all false teaching. The goal in reading the Bible is not for us to use it so that our mentality is reinforced. Our mentality, our personal ambition and desires are supported. It's when we go and we're getting to know our dad, and it's helping us see where our ambition, where our flesh, where our personal desires are actually in misalignment with the true purposes God has for us. Okay, so all that's, I meditate, and that includes contemplating like what I'm reading, what I'm hearing. It also is like very prayerful, where I just go at a slower pace, because my goal isn't just to like last through it. My goal is to understand it in its original intent, and also to time. So I try to meditate, and that looks different every day. I want to study it, like really study it. And this is me being like, I'm more prone to be a Bible nerd. So I've used the Bible Project. I've said that I've wrote it about a million times. But the Bible Project has a whole botany of resources. And so I use the Bible Project to study very specific like passages of scripture, line by line, in its Hebrew form. And obviously we're in Hebrew, but like how the Hebrews would understood it is revelatory. Yeah. Like it helps me understand that the character of God in the Old Testament is equally as gracious and kind and loving and sovereign and wonderful as the Jesus that is depicted in the New Testament. And it also has like kind of debunked some really poor teaching that I learned in the past. And then I also am doing like a year-long plan where I'm going to read the Bible in a year, but I use Terry Lee Cobble's Bible Recap. For me, I worked in the tech space, obviously having worked in a digital Bible like platform. I listen to it. I like listening to it. I'm an audio listener, or I'm an audio learner. So I listen to the Bible Recap. I've chosen a translation in my reading of the Bible every day. I've chosen a translation that's more casual because I'm trying to like understand it instead of like what, I go to Tim Mackey and other Bible teachers at the Bible Project to understand what it means. I'm just trying to understand the Bible narrative. So I listen to the Message. And currently it's the beginning of the year. So I'm in, the front of the Bible right now. So I'm just listening to the stories and trying to understand like the full picture of the Bible. But I also care very deeply about being spiritually formed into Christ likeness. So when it comes to reading the Bible, it's really important to me that I'm keeping a pulse on how it's affecting the way that I think, the way that I live, the way that I eat, the way that I perceive. Like I want to integrate all the things I'm learning when I read the Bible into like who I'm becoming. Yeah. So those are all the things.
That's really good.
Yes.
That's really good.
I go to one resource for one purpose. I go to another resource for another purpose.
And it's cool because you get to see not everyone does it the same. And last thing I'm going to say about it, and then we can wrap this up. But for new believers, like this isn't important. So not is it only important because this is where you're going to really intimately get to know Jesus, but also this is a protection for you. Right. Because as a new believer, you are very vulnerable in terms of like how you're being molded. And so knowing this allows you to be able to rebuke a teaching that is inaccurate. Or to allow yourself space to take big questions to Jesus versus take big questions to people. That's very important. And so as a new believer, it's really daunting because you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I'm telling you right now, it is important that you get to know this. It's important.
Yeah. And I would say some of the best Bible teachers later on, they didn't just start reading it because they had to. They started reading it because they asked God to give them the desire to read it, and He gave it to them. They have them for it. So I also will stress, and some will totally disagree with me. Please don't force that. Just go to God. If you don't feel like you can open the Bible, just talk to God about it. And I promise you, He will soften your heart and will give you, in due time, a growing desire to understand it through His Word. If you're interested in reading the scriptures and praying at the same time, I also want to recommend another resource of you. Halo is one that's becoming really, really popular, and it's just guided prayer. And then another one is Lectio 365, and it has like morning prayers and evening prayers. I just love it so much, and that would be like a good resource that I recommend. So you use the papyrus, I use all digital resources, and God just uses that for us.
I think there is a level. I'm gonna encourage you, Jess.
Yeah.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I made a mistake in the beginning that I started treating the Bible like I treated any other self-help book.
Yes.
And that's a slippery slope.
Totally.
There is a level, I think, of discipline that comes in, and that's with anything.
100%.
If you want to get in shape, you actually have to show up at the gym. Doesn't matter how hard your workout is, doesn't matter, but you actually have to show up. If you want to have a better relationship with someone in your life, you actually have to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to come in heavy on this, but it is something that I think sometimes does a disservice to people new to the Bible to just act like it's not, somebody's got to show up, and somebody's not open to like, I got nothing. But I just open it. And sometimes that's the only revelation that I was supposed to have that day is like, look at you. You're still here because you still want to know. You still want that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, yes, I agree on every single point you say. But I also I just want to come a little hard with that for a second. That there is a discipline measure that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you're not getting answers and you're not able to really like feel God's connection, it's just the discipline of showing him is.
Oh, girl, I could not agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the act of praying and asking Him to help you have a desire, I think it's the guarantee you Bible. I think it's like the one that
It
you
works
say.
in tandem.
It works in tandem. And I also think that a lot of people from the vantage point that I'm in were forced to open it no matter what they wanted. And it really tinkered with their desire to know God. And so you're speaking 100%. I agree with that. And that's somebody who's like, their heart is wide open to the Lord. Mm-hmm. Please open the Bible every day. Just do it every day. But those that are like really good at recovering from some work-oriented disciplines that you're told, like, no matter what you're feeling, you're not that will discipline you if you don't.
Yeah.
Open that Bible.
Yeah.
Just ask God for the desire to do it.
That's it. Let's start there. So
Both ends. Yeah, both ends.
well, and this is a space for both.
That's right. I mean, that's what we're.
It is a space for both. And why I love this dialogue right here is because whatever is being said is speaking to someone.
That's it.
No matter where you're at, you know, with your journey.
Yeah.
And like you sharing that perspective makes me be like, yeah, didn't think of that. Absolutely. And then also, you know, someone coming from a different perspective. So
They need the challenge. I mean, I think some people are going to need the challenge of being like, just commit to this relationship every day. And some need the challenge to say, just talk to them about being committed to this relationship every day. And I think those entry points are just as meaningful. Both are meaningful. Both are relevant. And again, wisdom is discerning when knowledge is applied.
I love both of our guests just shining bright.
They really are. It's true. It's totally true. Okay, and then the last one is ungodly relationships. I think a lot of people in their 20s are in varying degrees of relationships, singleness, dating casually, seriously dating, engaged, married. There's like so many things so many vantage points. And so godly,
Sorry, what specifically is that pertaining to?
dating,
Okay.
Dating casually, dating seriously, getting engaged, getting married, maybe having babies. Like, what does a godly relationship look like? Not friendships, not platonic relationships, like more intimate relationships. And I just want to just say for the record, I did, by all logistical accounts, I would consider my relationship with my husband as a godly relationship. We both really love the Lord. And when a lot of people are talking about boundaries. Boundaries can be so, they aren't, to me, like it's a really hard thing to talk about. I wouldn't even say that I'm an expert figuring out like what boundaries you need for your relationship. I think the one advice that I would give if you were dating somebody and you are trying to decide whether or not this somebody is your somebody, I would just say find somebody in a season past yours and tell them every physical temptation that you and your person have and let them help you be more objective with what you need to do. Solid test. That's what I gotta say about boundaries. I wish I had more authority to speak on it. I would just say that like my husband and I saved ourselves, you know, while we dated, we didn't have sex, but I would say boundaries were stronger for us too. So good luck is what I have to say. Just look, good luck to you. Go to somebody, tell them what your temptations are. Have him find somebody that's in a season beyond that, and make sure that he's very honest, vulnerable, transparent with somebody in his life about his temptations and the temptations you have together, and let the wisdom of somebody more objective guide you on what you're going to do, and then be really committed to doing what you guys have agreed together that you will or will not do that. Okay? So if you're dating, figure that out. Good luck. The other is when it comes to like picking my dude, there were some core values that I had that if this person that I was going to be with did not share these core values, life would be extremely hard for me, because I wouldn't be able to live out what I know God birthed in me and my gifts and what I care very deeply about. So I needed to find somebody who knew the same thing. I wanted to find somebody who wanted a family that might not have been made by us. Like, I heard in my mind, maybe at some point that I would expand my family beyond, you know, biological growth. Yeah. And so I wanted somebody to care about that. I cared very deeply and still do about hospitality and taking care of people. That matters deeply to me. And so I needed to find somebody else that cared about that. I serve at my church, and I really love to serve at my church. And so I needed somebody else who really loved to serve at my church. And there were several other things, but there were like things that I knew. And so knowing myself before meeting somebody else was a huge factor in finding a godly dude. And so I found a guy. He did not, you know, people say like, I'm just going to write out all the things that I want out of a spouse. Every single thing that I wrote down was the most superficial, self-serving, stupid thing. I wanted him to play the guitar. I put that crap on there. Really? My husband, the guitar wasn't for it. It did in my 20s. Now I have a completely different relationship with guys who are musicians. Like, how I perceive them is radically different because I married somebody so different. But I will say, for me, I had to surrender everything that I thought was my type, because my type would have totally destroyed me and taken the light down, like dimmed my light. Because what I wanted was me. I wanted another me, and selfish. So instead, I surrendered all those things, and I found a man. Our service dog behind the cameras is talking, he's shaking.
He's doing way too much.
Do less, Julio. Do less. Look down.
Hold on. Come.
Oh, we're gonna bring the service dog to us.
Sit. Lie down. Lie down.
You guys can't really see him, but you
Can't see him. You can see his ears.
It's cute.
Okay.
But I
should be better. So sorry.
That's okay. Hopefully he doesn't like tell us that we need to report his shoes right.
Well, that's probably what he's doing right now.
Oh, he's just telling us that we've got something wrong.
Either blood sugar is dropping or we have
Oh, dang. So he's actually doing his job. Good job, Julio.
So I'm gonna come over here.
Okay, so what I was going to say is, Luke was the opposite of my type, and it was the very best thing for me. And there were things about his character, and it was totally like he's a smoke show. Okay, but like, so I was attracted to him, but there were things about his character that because that I felt so deeply about them, I was able to define them. When I saw them in him, I was just like, this guy, okay? And so anyway, so I say all that just before you go jumping to the longing that you have to be in a relationship, for those of you that do, define for yourself what values, not the quirks, not the, just what do you care very deeply about that you want your partner to also care very deeply about. And let those help you say yes or no. Another thing that I really desire out of friendships and my spouse is like a teachable spirit, like somebody willing to learn. And so anyway, so like those are some things that I just be more mindful of, like when you're dating, to keep in mind. Do you have any other thoughts?
I think that's great. And you and Luke are like, you really are a compliment to one another.
Yeah.
And you're like, when you're together, I'm like, that's a solid unit.
Well, yeah.
You can just tell.
Yeah.
And you guys both have that and complement each other very, very well. I think everything you said, here's the thing. If you're in the beginning of a relationship and you're walking across something that is uncomfortable, maybe that's, maybe that's intimacy, and intimacy that you're not ready for, but maybe you feel pressure. Or maybe it's not even pressure from him. Maybe it's pressure that I really like this relationship. I want to keep this relationship. Or whatever it may be. My advice is that communication will be everything in marriage. And if you don't feel like you can communicate with that person at the very beginning,
Yes.
that's a red flag, honey.
Oh, please. Yeah.
It's a red flag. And so you should be able to talk about the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And it might not go great, and it will take you years of practice. We've both been married over 10 years, and you can probably attest to this. We're still working on communication.
I mean, we're working on communication because what we need to communicate is.
Yes.
Yeah.
But having the open line
Yes.
to communication, I feel like that's really pivotal in a partner.
Yeah.
I, again, did a little differently than Jess. I did not save myself for marriage. I also, my husband and I are polar opposites.
Yeah.
We don't meet on anything besides our morals.
Right.
And so that is kind of hard, because realize this, who you're picking in a partner right now, you're not just picking for yourself, but you're picking for your potential children.
That's right.
You are picking for who your potential self is going to be. And so I think outside of communication, the number one thing is respect with one another.
Wow.
Even if you're totally different, my husband and I have a different belief system, and we both respect one another.
That's right.
It is the hardest thing I ever had to navigate in my life within a relationship, but it works because we have two things. We have communication and we have respect for one another.
That's it.
And so if I'm going to give you any advice, yeah, a guitar would be cool. If you could play the guitar, that's cool. If I probably made a list like that, it would have been just the same. But if there's two things that should make it on your list, my advice is that it's communication.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a good word. Communication and respect. The other thing that she and I both fostered, I think, early on, and it's still sustainable, is the friendship factor. Like, I am decisively, my husband is decisively first my friend, and then he gets to be my lover, and he gets to be my co-partner, and parenting, and but he's my friend, and I need his friendship more than I need other things that he offers me, what I mean?
Yes.
I need him as my friend way more than I need him as the other functions that he provides and offers me. And so I think fostering a good friendship, be a good friend, expect good friendship from him. Respect, absolutely, because you have to weather so many differences. And the only way that you can really manage those differences is by having the respect for one another to agree to disagree. And I would also say, pray that the Lord gives you discernment to know. This is advice that my mother-in-law actually gave me, who was my mentor before I married hubby, she said, "Are you comfortable and willing to love and live with Luke as he is today? Version of him, boyfriend, fiance. Are you, if he never changed, would she be okay with who he is? I don't want to trust and hope of him becoming something that it isn't already. I have to accept." That's a good old word. Her name is BJ or Beach. Good word, Beach. That's a good word. And so when I was able to say exactly who Luke was 2 months before I walked down the aisle to him, if he kept being that guy, I was going to be happy for the rest of my life. Thankfully, he isn't. He's way better. And we've ebbed and flowed with each other. But it's because we've established a foundation of friendship with respect, we talk. And so there's other layers to it than just like really love each other and really want to help each other. Like there's just like so many other factors. And those factors really take a back seat to the rest of your life. So let's figure out those more concrete and long-lasting qualities in a relationship before he puts a ring on it or before you even meet.
That's really good. And I think I love that you get to give that advice and that you actually follow that advice, because if that's something that's like really speaking to you, like this is a woman who can talk the talk and walk the walk. Has fun. But that's important.
Yeah.
That's important. And I think it's super solid. I wish I kind of would have been surrounded by women like that when I was in my 20s. I was. But with that being said, as someone who I did not wait till marriage to have sex, I actually had a child out of wedlock. I did Jezebel from point A to point B, and I still, every single day, through my relationship with Jesus and through his redeeming of me, I still see him bless my marriage.
Totally. Oh my gosh. And I'll just say also that there were things that God birthed in you before you met him that blessed your marriage before you met him. So like I'll also say that
But there's this idea that it's like if you make one mistake, and I feel like this pressure is specifically put on women.
Yeah, totally.
If you make one decision, like it's done, it's out. Like, you know, and I really, like Jess can sit here and be an example. I hope I can sit here and be an example of just the redeemingness of God and how taking things to him can result in so much wisdom. It can result in also not shame, but actual growth. Awareness.
Yeah.
And it's still, I guess I just want to put it simply, it's not over. Because you make a decision, it's so good. It's not over.
No, totally not.
But there is kind of that pressure, I feel like, out there. And there is kind of that assumption, unfortunately, for a lot of women specifically that feel sexual shame.
Yeah, totally.
And it's not cool. And it's not, in my experience that I've had with the Lord, it's not truth. Now, have I came to the Lord and I've had to repent? Yes. And repent just means to change. That's all repent means. Have I had to face some of my choices? Yes. Do I regret some of them? Yes. But also it has led me exactly where I need to be. And so I just want to have that like kind of like open-ended conversation that it's if you've already made the choices.
Yes, God can do any of it.
Any of it, and without shame. I do not shame for you. I do not feel shame for my past because I have literally came to the Lord, and He has revealed to me that I should not feel shame. I should not feel shame. And so we've talked about this before on the podcast of like what God actually sounds like. And so if intimacy issues or sexual shame issues are something that you're experiencing and you are not feeling God's presence, which is, although it may be honest and it may be forward and it may convict you, it's not shaming you.
It's not shaming you. Yeah. It's actually, this is another word. Like, I just want to say real quick. The distinction that I've made between the enemy, the devil, the dark power at work in us, and God is that the enemy is going to try to blanket statement you as a person. Your sin means that you're bad. What God always does is it gives you a very specific word, a very specific thing that you did.
Yes.
One thing. He doesn't label you as that thing. He'll say things like, you let your ego take over this particular situation, or you chose to gratify the desires of your flesh in this particular relationship, or you didn't leave my goodness when you decided to trust this person. He's very specific on the situation, but if you're feeling like I'm bad, I don't belong, God's never going to love me, when it's blanketed into who you are, when it really challenges your identity,
Yes.
that's a lie.
Yes. And, you know, I'll just go into that is when we sin, which we've covered this before, sin is just missing the mark, missing the goal that God has for you. When you sin, it's allowing space for the enemy. And so consider that. Consider that in the talk that you are hearing, what it can actually be. And there's a remedy. That will, there's a remedy, and yeah, we don't have to spend any more time on that. I just wanted to say that, and I also think it's really cool for two women in their 30s who went about a lot of things very differently, to still sit here in the presence of God, feeling loved by God, you know what I mean? Like, that's cool. That's cool. And so I hope whoever's listening to this, no matter what walk of life you're coming from, like that, you can do this too.
That it was full. Just the Lord. He heals his hurts. He loves the transforms. Well, I'm so glad for you guys to follow these. There's so many other topics that I think we need to do, like, every once in a while we'll do another next gen share. We'll just give advice.
If you just let us know. If we talk about something today that you're like, I want a full answer on that, please, you can DM us on our social media. It's What Sheep Weavers Podcast. I read every single DM, Jess reads every single comment. Like, we appreciate all of your interaction because, like you said, we're doing this with you.
Right.
So please, if something speaks to you, we want to hear that.
Totally. Absolutely. And I would also say that if you heard anything today, I hope that the takeaway generally is that just go along. Let's just go back. Good. And then he'll guide you to find another resource. His word, all kinds of stuff. Okay. Do you want to pray? Do you need a prayer? What do you think?
Why don't you pray that real quick?
Okay. Then let's pray. Holy Spirit, I just thank you so much for that. You love us, and you're good. We were created, God. We acknowledge you as the one completely neutral. And we pray over this conversation. If there's something that Alicia and I said that didn't align with who you are, what truth you have for the people who are listening, God. I just pray that you throw it in the trash. You don't let anybody remember it. And that you just weed out whatever we said or opinions that might not align with your goodness, your grace, your love, your mercy, your truth. So, God, I pray for the people who are listening right now. They're so precious too. In their current state, in the step in the process that they're in. We just pray that they just feel the spiritual hug from you right now. Pray, God, that you bless them to not bless them with material things or superficial things, but you bless them with the awareness to them. Bless them with a feeling of peace that transcends our ability to understand. That you bless them with wisdom. Bless them with discernment. That you bless them with energy. That you bless them with joy and hope and God, I just pray that you reveal to them whatever it is that will help them grow more and more like you. And I just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks for joining us for another episode.
See you next time.